23 October 2021, Saturday, the Hindu Business News. Energy transition process, inflation risk, green move risk, energy price shocks, China financial sector adds trade risk to global growth, Burma. Special correspondent Mumbai. The ongoing worldwide transition to green energy poses a significant risk of triggering energy price shocks similar to the 1970s, which would accelerate inflation, said Jayant Verma, the sole member of the RBI's Monetary Policy Committee (MPC), to vote against continuing with the central bank's accommodative policy stance. This means that the upside risk to long-term inflation and to inflation expectations are now more aggravated, Mr. Verma said at the last MPC meeting, the minutes of which were released on Friday. My second recent concern is about the tail risk to global growth posed by emerging financial sector fragility in India, reminiscent of Japan of the late 1980s, he said. Both of these risks are well beyond the control of the MPC, but they warrant a heightened degree of flexibility and agility, Mr. Verma stressed. Slow motion, a pattern of policy making in slow motion that is guided by an extensive desire to avoid surprises is no longer appropriate, he asserted, adding that he was in favor of raising the reverse repo rate from the current 3.35% towards 4% so as to demonstrate the MPC's commitment to the inflation target, help anchor expectations and enhance macroeconomic stability. Reiterating his reservations from August, Mr. Verma said his central argument was that the COVID-19 pandemic had mutated into a human tragedy rather than an economic crisis, and monetary policy would be far less effective than fiscal measures in providing targeted relief to the worst hit segments of the economy. Also, inflationary pressures were showing signs of greater persistence than anticipated earlier, he added. Other members who voted to hold interest rates and retain the accommodative stance too flagged concerns about the outlook for inflation, as the MPC observed that core inflation excluding food and fuel remained elevated and sticky at 5.8% in July-August 2021. Core inflation is affected by the prices of transport fuels and transport services that are directly affected by the crude oil price shock, noted Shashank Bide, adding that reduction in India's indirect taxes would play an important role in easing shocks on transport costs and overall inflation, a view echoed by Ashima Goyal, who to urge tax cuts on fuels. RIL net surges 43% on oil products demand. Telecom unit Jio sees profit jump 24%. Reuters, Bengaluru. Reliance Industries Limited, India's most valuable company, reported second quarter profit that jumped 43% to exceed market expectations as higher demand for oil products boosted its mainstay oil to chemicals business. The conglomerate led by billionaire Mukesh Ambani said consolidated profit rose to 136.80 billion rupees in the quarter ended September 30 from 95.67 billion rupees a year earlier. Analysts on average had expected a profit of 134.65 billion rupees according to Refinitiv data. Revenue from the oil to chemicals unit, home to both its refining and petrochemicals operations, rose 58.1%, benefiting from a sharp recovery in demand across products and higher transportation fuel margin, the company said. Reliance Telecom unit Jio reported a 24% rise in profit. Overall revenue from operations rose 50% to 1.74 trillion rupees from a year earlier. CBF rose 16,600 crore rupees IPO of Paytm, First Trust of India, New Delhi. Digital financial services firm Paytm has received market regulator SEBI's approval for its 16,600 crore rupees initial public offer, a source involved in the process said on Friday. The company expects to hit the bourses by the end of this month and is planning to skip the pre-IPO share sale rounds to fast-track listing. Paytm's plan of shelving the pre-IPO fundraising is not related to any valuation differences, the source said on condition of anonymity. Paytm is said to be looking at a valuation of 1.47 to 1.78 lakh crore rupees. India will act against unfair trade practices. Non-tariff barriers must go well. Special correspondent, New Delhi. Taking on countries curbing exports from India, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said on Friday that India will take reciprocal action wherever it faces an unfair or unjust treatment in trade matters. Reiterating India's call to bring down non-tariff barriers in international trade, he said global trade should operate within a rule-based multilateral trading system with honesty and transparency as core values. We are engaging with like-minded nations like the EU, UK, Canada, Australia and UAE for early conclusion of free trade agreements, he said, addressing an IIFT convocation event. He urged Indian universities to tie with eminent global institutions to enhance Indian students' exposure to the best of technology, law, economics, and international trade. Yes Bank net rises 74% on lower slippage. Press Trust of India. Yes Bank on Friday reported a profit after tax of 225 crore rupees for the quarter ended September, an increase of 74.3% from a year earlier, mainly due to lower provisioning requirements. Yes Bank's MD and CEO Prashant Kumar attributed the rise in profit to better business growth and lower provisioning. With lower slippages and better recoveries and upgrades, our provisioning requirement has come down, he told reporters. Net interest income declined 23.4% to 1,512 crore rupees. Net interest margin dipped to 2.2% from 3.1%. Protection of customer interest is non-negotiable. RBI's Rao urges NBFCs to build trust. Press Trust of India, New Delhi. RBI Deputy Governor M. Rajeshwar Rao on Friday urged non-banking financial companies and NBFCs to give utmost importance to protection of customers as this aspect is non-negotiable. Recalling incidents of coercive recovery practice by some players, Mr. Rao said such developments spurred by purely commercial considerations had dented the credibility of the whole system that flourishes and thrives on trust. We should not compromise on the ethos of finance for ephemeral gains. These gains would anyway accrue to the institutions over the long term if and when it is built on an edifice of trust and mutual benefit, he said at the MBFC summit organized by CAA, observing that RBI was inundated with complaints of harsh recovery practices, breach of data privacy, increasing fraudulent transactions, cybercrime, excessive interest rates, and harassment. He said protection of customers was non-negotiable. RIL deal. SIAC rejects future plea to lift stay. Press Trust of India, New Delhi. The Singapore-based arbitrator SIAC has rejected future retail's plea to lift the interim stay on its 24,713 crore rupees deal with the Reliance Retail, giving a major relief to Amazon that is contesting the transaction. The development comes a day after the Singapore International Arbitration Center SIAC held that Future Retail Limited FRL is a party to the ongoing arbitration between Amazon and Future Group in the dispute over the sale of its assets to Reliance Retail. FRL said in a filing it would decide its future action based on legal advice. IOC eyes full refinery run as fuel demand rebounds. Petrol LPG back to pre-COVID levels. Press Trust of India, New Delhi. Indian Oil Corporation (IOC), the nation's largest oil firm, expects refinery run to reach 100% within a quarter as fuel demand returns. Its chairman S.M. Vaidya said, speaking at India Energy Forum by Saravik, he said petrol and cooking gas LPG demand was already above the pre-COVID levels and diesel at the most consumed fuel in the country was inching back to normalcy. Energy demand is rebounding in India with the revival of economic activity after a devastating pandemic, he said. India's energy demand have after a nationwide lockdown was imposed in March last year, but with gradual easing of restrictions, the economic activity has rebounded. Mr. Vaidya said the robust energy demand in India is only set to grow in the future. LPG and petrol have already exceeded pre-COVID levels, and we expect refinery capacity to reach 100% by the next quarter, he said. US's refineries operated at 82% of capacity in September and are operating above 90% this month. He said IOC is strengthening its core business of refining and is looking to enhance its refining capacity to 105 million tons per annum from the current 80.5 million ton at the cost of $13.5 billion. Mercedes to directly sell cars to clients. Special correspondent Mumbai. German luxury car maker Mercedes-Benz on Friday implemented its customer-centric retail of the future ROTF direct-to-customers business model. In this new format, Mercedes-Benz India will retain the ownership of the entire stock of cars and retail them via appointed franchisee partners, dealers, by invoicing them directly to the customers. The company will also be responsible for processing and fulfilling the customer orders. With ROTF, there will be one nationally set price by the company, which will be uniform across the country. It said ROTF caters to the evolving trends of our customers while empowering our franchisee partners, said Martin Schwenk, MD and CEO of the company. JCB to begin operations at Vadodara unit in Q1 of 2022. Global demand for construction equipment increasing. MD Yudhika Bhargava. New Delhi. Despite challenges posed by the pandemic, construction equipment maker JCB is confident of starting operations at its export-focused manufacturing plant in Vadodara, Gujarat in the first quarter of 2022. CEO and MD Deepak Shetty said. The firm, for which India is one of the largest markets, is seeing increased demand for construction equipment world over as economies are recovering from the pandemic, he pointed out. JCB operates in more than 155 countries around the world, and India is one of the largest markets for JCB globally. This is a unique year. Following actions taken by governments of various countries, almost all economies are recovering well. So we are seeing a great opportunity everywhere. But India continues to remain one of the largest and biggest markets for JCB, he said. On the Vadodara unit, he said the facility is the next step in the direction of making India for the world. This particular facility will be manufacturing components for our facilities in the UK, Brazil and the US, and we will be exporting them. Exports rose threefold. He added that with the economies around the world recovering, JCB India had seen a threefold growth in export numbers. While he did not share exact numbers, he said currently 18% of products made in India were being exported to more than 110 countries. In the first phase, the company has invested 650 crore in the Vadodara plant, the total investment for which is expected to be more than 1,000 crore rupees. The company plans to have women accounting for 50% of the workforce at the plant. In fully operation, the plant is estimated to employ 1,200 workers. SEBI merged ISIN cap for corporate bond liquidity. New Delhi. With an aim to boost liquidity in the corporate bond market, SEBI suggested further capping the number of ISIN for such bonds issued on a private placement basis. ISIN International Securities Identification Numbers code is used for uniquely identifying securities like stocks and bonds. Federal Bank quarter 2 net jumps 55% to 488 crore rupees. New Delhi. Private sector lender Federal Bank on Friday reported an almost 55% jump in consolidated net profit to 488 crore rupees for the second quarter of this fiscal ended September 30. The bank had posted a net profit of 315.70 crore rupees in the year earlier period. Total income consolidated during the July-September period of 2021 to 22, however, was down at 4,013.46 crore as against 4,071.35 crore in the same period of 2020-21. Federal Bank said in a filing. Fuji Silvertech plans 200 crore rupees capex. Mumbai. Fuji Silvertech Concrete Private Limited, a JV between Japan's Fuji Concrete Industry Company Limited and India's Silvertech, which manufactures precast concrete for the infrastructure, said it is planning to invest 200 crore in the next 2 years to increase capacity to meet the growing demand for its products. The firm said it would commence production at its Aurangabad unit from January 2022. NTPC floats tender to procure imported coal. State-run power giant NTPC has floated a tender to procure 1 million tons of imported coal after a gap of more than 2 years amid the ongoing shortage of dry fuel at electricity generating projects across the country. The company had last floated a tender to procure imported coal in August 2019, a senior official said. According to the tender document, the coal procured under this tender would be used by various plants of the company. Sensex 60,822 US dollars 74.90 rupees. Coal 46,678. Brand oil 85.07. That's all. Thank you.